Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day as always. And today I'd like to talk about your life. Well, anyway, that's what I'm going to talk about. So, when you were born, okay, and inside of your mind was a tiny little speck, and it was very sticky, okay? I know I'm using physical metaphors for something that's not physical, but that's just the way it is. Now, in this part of your mind, okay, is the stickiness, okay? A sticky speck. And anything that comes near it gets stuck to it. Like, for instance, the taste of your mom's nipple, or the feeling of your mom's nipple, the feeling of your mom's breast under your hand when you clutched it, the feeling of your mom's skin when she put her cheek on your cheek, the feeling of your dad's skin, the feeling of his stubble when he kissed you or whatever, okay? And all these things became part of who you thought you were, who became part of your ego. And this sticky thing, which is the ego, of course, sucks everything in and makes it part of itself, okay? Like, for instance, the first rattle. Along about 6 months, 8 months you're old, you get strong enough that you can hold something. You can hold a rattle, and then you give it a rattle. And you move it around, it makes a noise, it makes you feel better. And the ego sticks to that, okay? And that's how it goes, okay? And as time goes on, you get your first dolly or your first play truck, and the ego sticks to that too. And then you get to about age 2 or 3, and you start acquiring language. And the ego acquires language. That's what it wants, is to acquire things, okay? Your mind is bent on picking up anything it can, okay? And that's part of what your ego does. It's like a sponge, as people say. Anyway, so your mind or your ego, we don't really know what it is or why it's this way, but there's this thing inside of you that wants things like language, toys. Now, if you've ever had a 3-year-old and they say, mine, this is mine, 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 mine. Everybody's experienced that to some extent if they're parents. Because that's the ego doing that, okay? And as the ego acquires more things like language and more toys and so on and so forth, okay, it gets bigger. And as time goes by, it starts to say, I'm not a baby anymore. I don't need this rattle. Okay? Or I'm not a baby anymore. I don't need this dolly. Or I'm not a baby anymore. I don't need this car or this truck. Or whatever it is that you had that was part of it, you cast it off. Or your Hot Wheels track. Okay? And as you get older and you acquire more things and you let go of other things, the ego just gets bigger and bigger. And it becomes more and more a part of your life. Okay? And what that means is that it is now beginning to have some control over your life. Okay? I don't want you to feel bad about this. This happens to everybody. It's part of the human nature. Okay? So, now, what does this mean? It means that the ego wants, okay, it has need of everything that you are and everything that you have. Okay, that's what it means. Okay? And so as you get older, maybe you're 6 or 7, and you have, say, a childhood trauma or whatever it is, the ego clings onto that too and makes that a part of itself. Okay? Or maybe you have an injury, okay, or whatever it is, and the ego clings onto that too making that a part of itself. Okay? And it uses that injury, it uses that childhood trauma, okay, to control you with fear. It's crazy, isn't it? And when you're 9 or 10, it's pretty much got a full control of you by then. And somebody says, what do you want to be? And you say, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a doctor. I want to be whatever it is you say. Okay? The ego is going to say, that's never going to work. Or it's going to say, yes, let's be a fireman. Okay? Just like your parents are going to say, that's never going to work. When you say, I want to be a comedian at age 9, they're going to say, you can't make a living doing that. Or an artist, or a musician, or whatever it is that you want to be. The parents say, no, you have to find something more stable. Right? That's what they all do. Okay? And the ego continues to be there as a presence by saying, no. That's a stupid idea. You're so stupid. Why are you so stupid? This is what the ego is saying to you. Okay? It's not true, but that's what it's saying. Now, you get to age 15 or so, and you start high school, and you have all this competition going on, which the ego loves, okay? Because it wants to feel superior. That's what the ego wants. It wants to feel superior, okay? And so, therefore, it uses that competition to make itself feel better, okay? Like, for instance, you won the wrestling match. You get a big ego boost. You won a swimming match. You get a big ego boost. Whatever it is, okay? Or if you lost the swimming match, then the ego comes down on you and condemns you for being slow and stupid. That's the way it is, okay? And that's what it is. The ego sticks to whatever's going on, okay? If you won something, it sticks to that and says, congratulations, you're so fine, blah, 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 or whatever it is, okay? But if you lose something, then it's going to condemn you, okay? And that's what it does all the time if you lose, okay? For instance, if you lose a job, or if you lose your keys, or you lose whatever it is, the ego chimes in with, you're so stupid, you're such an idiot, you're a piece of shit, okay? To make you feel bad about losing the keys, or about losing anything, okay? That's the device, that's the machinery that rules your life, okay? And when you find the keys, okay, which inevitably you will, you're just like, you are brilliant. It's crazy, isn't it? But that's what it does, okay? And this is the machinery that is going on inside your mind, okay? That rules everything you do. Okay, and you get to be 18 or 17 maybe, and you want to apply for college and become whatever, okay? If you get in, the ego is like, oh, I'm so badass, right? But if you don't get in, the ego's like, you're such a piece of shit. That's the way it is. I didn't make it that way, that's just the way it is. Okay? So that is what's going on inside your mind. And as you get older, if you succeed, the ego is like, yay, you're great, you're fantastic. Okay? And if you don't succeed, it wants to make you feel like absolute dirt. Because then, it feels better. It feels better when you look like crap. Okay? That's just the way it is. Like, I'm sure you've all known someone from the past who was just an asshole and hurt people in order to feel better about themselves. Of course, everyone's known someone like that. Oh, that's what the ego does, okay? And it's not hurting people, it's hurting you, okay? And so this constant condemnation of the ego on you if you haven't won, which only a few people can win. Not everybody gets to win, okay? The vast majority of people have lost, okay? I look at Bill Gates, Bezos, Musk. All these people have won, okay? But, there are millions of people who didn't win, okay? So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of millionaires and a lot of billionaires in the world. That's for sure. But the vast majority of people aren't that, okay? And so when that happens, the ego comes down on you. And this doesn't just involve you, it involves your whole line, okay? For instance, if your grandfather, okay, made money doing something, a lot of money, okay? Then the ego praises him. Oh, he was so great. You're just like him. Let's go make more money. Or maybe it was your ancestor from way back when, okay? The first, big, robber baron, like, I don't know the names of these people, okay? From back in the 1800s. That was your great-grandfather or your great-great-grandfather, your ancestor, okay? And you inherited the money, so you feel powerful, and you have this ancestor that your ego praises all the time. Oh, he was so great, and you're great too. Or if you were a victim, and your whole tribe was a victim, like you're a Jew, and your whole tribe was victimized by the Nazis, and so you think you're a victim, or you think that you have experienced victimness, okay? Then the ego picks up on that and starts using that to make you feel bad, okay? Or good. You survived that camp. You survived the horrible shit that the Nazis did. You're a survivor. And it's all bullshit, okay? Now, so these are the ways in which the ego has control of your life, okay? And the ego wants to get bigger. And it does that by acquiring things like experiences and stuff, okay? And it uses anything it can, like what a loser your great-grandfather was. Okay, my great-great-great-great-grandfather was a horse thief, okay? And he changed his name because he was such a horse thief, but that didn't change anything. Everybody knew he was a horse thief. And so for the last 100 years or so, everybody was told your grandfather was your great-grandfather was a horse thief. Yeah. And so on and so forth. Okay, down through the ages. And that stuff came to me because that's just the way it is. Okay? And so the ego sees that, hears that, and uses it. It stores up that information and uses it when you're at your lowest point. And that's just the way it goes. For instance, you didn't get into college and you haven't gotten the job you wanted or whatever it is, and now you feel like shit. And the ego's like, well, you know what? You're even worse than your grandfather who was a horse thief. That's what it does, okay? Because it wants to make you low so it can feel high, okay? Anyway, that is the nature of your life experience, okay? That is the nature of the way the ego is controlling you. And then you can either let it continue to control you if you want to, okay? By all means, that's fine, okay? No one's going to say, hey, don't do that. The whole world is based on letting the ego have its say. And that's what it is, okay? And I'm sure you can have a fairly happy life, I guess, if you do that. But you know what? It's not going to be as happy or as good a life as if you had awakened. Obviously, I can't convince you that awakening is something you need to do, okay? Other than say, it's better than not awakening. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So now you're about 40 years old, and you're either a loser or a winner, and in order to feel big, the ego is controlling everything. It takes reality and twists it and feeds it to you, okay? And that's what it does. Okay? Sorry about that. So, it's feeding that twisted reality to you, okay? In addition to that, it's feeding the twisted thoughts that it has thought up in order to make you feel bad. That's what it's doing, okay? Unless you're a winner, like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Bill Gates or any of the other winners out there. I don't know all their names, okay? Which the vast majority of people are not, okay? The vast majority of people may have a few wins and may have a few losses, but they're not the big winners, okay? And then what happens when you have a loss is your ego comes in and says you're a piece of shit. That's what happens. And that ego is your I. I want this. I want that. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go to the store. That's the I that you think is you, okay? And that's why I call it a fake identity, because it's not you. As long as you hold on to that I-ness, okay, then you're going to suffer. That's not the way I want things to happen, but that's the way it is. Okay? Now, how do we let go of this I-ness, okay, or this ego? By stopping the thoughts. By realizing that the thoughts are not made by you. Okay? That's it. Okay? It's the thoughts are being made by something else, someone else. Okay? Not you. Okay? You're not making the thoughts, you're not making the decisions. Your life is not in your own control, which we can easily see by looking at anyone in the world. Okay? Look at Putin. Okay? Who was what? A spy to begin with? And later he took power, and now he's in this huge war, which he's only eventually going to lose. But because he's got this ego telling him, you must win. Okay? And that's just one example. Or Netanyahu. Okay? He's like, I am going to make Gaza City into a resort, blah, blah, blah. That's partly because of Trump. Okay? Because he sent that video out that made it look like it was a... I mean, all this stuff is part of the ego's ammunition, okay? And it uses it in order to control you, okay? And it's just going to keep doing that. It's not going to stop, okay? Unless you awaken. And how do we awaken? By accepting what is. And what is? They're not your thoughts. You're not the one doing the thinking. You are the soul. The soul does not think. The soul is like a sponge. It sucks in experience. It sucks in all sorts of things. Okay? But it's not thinking. Okay? I know we prize ourselves on our ability to think. We prize ourselves on our intellect and all that. And so on and so forth. But that's all part of the fake identity. And you can hang on to that fake identity. You can keep thinking that it's all you, that you're the one who did the great thing, or you're the one that didn't do the great thing, or whatever it is, okay? By all means, if that's what you want to do, then, yeah, do that, okay? But if you wish not to suffer, if you wish not to have suffering, there's a way out, and that is by accepting that you're not the one making the thoughts. You're not the one that's doing the thinking. Okay? And I know we all want to think that we're the one doing the thinking. We're the one that makes the ideas. We're the one that comes up with the great inventions of the world, so on and so forth. But that's just not the case. Okay? Now you can say, oh, my ego says I'm great. Okay? Because I invented such and such. Which is fine. You can think that if you want. Okay? But it's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to continue to have suffering. Because even if you are a winner and you did invent something great, like, say, I don't know, television. Okay? If we look at the inventor of television, okay, or anything else, as soon as they invented it, their life went to shit. Because the world is a nasty and cool place. Okay? So even inventing something that is now universal, okay, doesn't make you happy, okay? That's just the way it is. I mean, I'm not trying to make you think that you should stop inventing stuff. By all means, if you have ideas, you should try and do something with them, okay? But it's not going to make you happy. You'll get a few moments of happiness, like when you have an achievement, okay? And then back to the unhappiness after that. There's only one thing that can make you happy, and that's God, or the higher power. I don't want you to think that you don't believe in God. Maybe you don't believe in God, and that it's got nothing to do with you, because you don't think God exists, which is fine, okay? But you have to admit that there's got to be something. Let's call it the universe, okay? We don't know what it is. We have no way of understanding what it is, but there is something out there. Where did the Big Bang come from? It had to come from somewhere. It didn't just spontaneously pop into existence. There had to be something making it happen. What was that? We don't know. We have no freaking idea. So, therefore, there has to be something. Okay? And I know there's a God because I've experienced God. He came into me. Okay? His light entered my body. And when I came outside, everything was glowing. That was the light of God that's in these trees, in these plants, in this grass. And that is what matters. Everything else doesn't matter because everything else can be lost. Okay? And anything that can be lost will be lost. Okay? No matter how rich or famous or wonderful you are, eventually it's all going to be gone because you're going to die. Okay? So, what's important? What is the one important thing in this life that's worth having? Love, right? Because everything else isn't important. If you don't have love, then it's all ashes in your mouth because there's no one to share it with. Okay? I mean, I've heard of people say, hey, my wife left me and I got a promotion at the job and I was out eating prime rib with my friends and it tasted like ashes because I had no one to share it with. Okay, I've heard that dozens of times. Okay? Love is what makes life worth living. Okay? And that love comes through us to other people and through them to us. Okay? And that love is coming from God or the universe. Okay? And in order to feel that love, not just when there's other people that are loving you, but all the time, you have to awaken. You have to put down the ego. Just put it down. It doesn't have to be part of you. It's part of you now, but it doesn't have to be. And you put it down by realizing and recognizing that you are not the one making the thoughts. You're not the one deciding things. Okay? You're along for the ride. Okay? But your mind, which is in the clutches of the ego, okay, is doing the thinking. And you are not your mind, just like you're not your body. Anyway, so, and all of this stuff is part of why you can't let go of things, why you can't wake up. Because this tiny thing inside your head, which rules over everything in your life, is clinging onto everything. Okay? And it does that because that's its nature to do. Right? Yeah. And so this clinging, which is part of what the ego does in order to feel good, okay, is bad for you. Okay? And in order to let this clinging go, in order to not to cling, we have to first disable the ego. And how we do that is by accepting that it's not us. That's it. I know it sounds very simple, doesn't it? You have to accept that this ego is not you, that your mind is not you, that your brain is not you, that your body is not you. None of it is you. You are the intelligence of the soul. You are the soul. That's who you are. You can think, oh no, I'm the body, I'm the mind, I'm the ego. Go ahead, think that. I'm not stopping you. But if you want to be free, if you want to have some freedom, okay, in this life, and not be constrained behind the bars of a prison built for your mind, which that's what you're in right now, you have to let go, and you have to do it through accepting. Accepting is so powerful. All you have to do is just accept that you're not the one doing the thinking. You're not the one thinking the thoughts. Because you wouldn't say horrible things to yourself, would you? No, you wouldn't say horrible things. You wouldn't say horrible things about yourself in front of other people, would you? No, of course not. You only say them to yourself inside your skull. And it's not you who's saying them. You think it's you. Okay? But it's not. And it's time to free yourself. It's time to accept that you're not the one making the thoughts. It's not you who's condemning you. Okay? Or condemning itself. I mean, all this stuff is very tricky. It's very difficult to try and figure out, but that's basically it. Okay? And this thing that is condemning you isn't you. And if you continue thinking that it is you, that you are the one making the decisions, that you are the one in charge of your life, then you're going to keep being unhappy. Because this thing, this ego, wants to make you unhappy, so it can feel big. That's the way it is. And as long as you continue to buy into the fact that you are a mind, that you are a body, then it's going to keep doing it. Nothing's going to stop it, okay? And then as more time goes by, you start to age, and the aches and pains come, and your ego is going to say something bad about the fact that you have aches and pains. That's what it's going to do, okay? If you hadn't been such an idiot and tripped over that trolley or whatever you tripped over, or if you hadn't been such an idiot and stayed out in the sun too long, your skin is now all burnt and torn up, or whatever it is. Whatever it is that you have experienced, the ego is going to use that to control you, to make you feel bad so that it can feel good. And that is just the way of it. We can't do anything about that except to accept that it's not us. I know it's hard. I know it's really hard to do that. But if you can just think about what it's saying to you, think about it. Would you say that to you in front of anyone else? Would you say, I'm a piece of shit in front of a bunch of people? No. Would you say, I'm useless or bad or whatever? No, you wouldn't say any of those things. So it's not you that's doing the saying. Right? Because, well, we care about how we look in front of other people. That's one thing. And in a way, that's part of the ego too. Okay? So that's why you don't do that. Okay? But we don't care how we look in front of us, how we look in front of our own self. Okay? That's the way it is. And that caring about how we look, caring about how we sound, caring about how, that's all just part of the ego's way of making you feel bad. Okay? And he twists the reality, twists the sound coming into your ears. Okay? Or not this actual sound, but once it hits your ears and it hits your brain, he twists it and changes it to make you sound bad, to make you look bad. Okay? Like, for instance, have you ever looked in the mirror and seen something you didn't like? I have. Like these lines right here. Okay? And the ego uses those lines or whatever else that you don't like about yourself to make you feel bad and say, "Oh, you're not good. You're not any good. You're bad." Okay? Maybe you have a toe that is crooked, or maybe it's part of your knee that doesn't function right, or whatever it is. The ego uses that to condemn you. Okay? And as long as you allow it to do that by continuing to believe that it's part of you, continuing to believe that it is you who's making the thoughts, which we do because that feels better. That allows us to feel better. Oh, I'm the one making the thoughts. I'm the one in charge. And being in charge is another part of the ego's way of making you do things. Okay? The ego is incredibly clever and smart and has all different ways of making you do what it wants you to do. Okay? And that's just the way it is. I don't want it to be that way, you know? But that is how it is. Anyway, so all these things are part of the trap. And you are in a trap. That trap is the ego's trap. It set it up. It made it. From the very first moment when you were sucking on your mama's titty, okay? It started forming. It started acquiring things. And that is what happened. And as long as you let it continue to acquire, as long as you let it continue to suck up your life, because that's what it's doing. It's sucking your life up. Okay? And it's not sucking it up and then giving you good. It's sucking it up and giving you bad. Okay? Making you feel bad. I don't think you want that. I don't think you want to feel bad, do you? No, you don't want to suffer. But that suffering is part of the ego's plan, because the ego wants to feel good. And the only way to make that happen is by making you feel bad. Well, I've gone beyond the time I should have at this point in time, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to say goodbye. I love you all because you're me. We're all part of the same thing, God. Okay, if you don't believe in God, then we're all part of the conscious collective, universal conscious collective. Okay? And there is no separation between you and me. There is no separation between me and these trees, or the mitochondria that's living beneath the ground, or anything else that's living in this world. Okay? Because everything that lives has a soul. And you can argue that and say, no, that can't be. Okay? But that's really the way it is. And I know that because I saw it. And maybe I'm full of shit. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, I do know that it makes me feel happy to know that. It makes me feel happy to know that everything, even these tiny bushes right here, are part of me. And they're part of you too. And knowing that makes you free. All right, well, I gotta go because the time has elapsed. Please, if you have any questions about anything I've said, comment and let me know what you think. Okay? All right, well, have a great day and a great life.